What's up everyone, Allan Morrow here from AIM Studios, and today I'm just going to go over some tips and tricks on getting your tracks listened to when you're sending them to labels and DJs. Now, a lot of the time I hear back from people saying, that their tracks have been sent, but they haven't even had a play on their track, never mind had any sort of feedback or reply. So just going to go through some things today to sort of help those grow those chances of getting your tracks played. So tip number one, building some rapport with the label or the DJ. Now this is probably going to be a bit more down the DJ or artist side of it rather than label, because with a label you probably only have their email address, so trying to become friendly with them through that demo email might be a little bit strange. But in terms of obviously sending your tracks to, for example, DJs or artists that you may know or have them on Messenger, it's much better to sort of build a bit of a friendship before you just start ramming your tracks down their throat to sign. For any DJ, there's nothing worse than just opening up your Messenger or whatever and just having tracks just sent to you, and people just expecting you to play it on your show or whatever. So try to build a bit of a friendship up with them first. Send a couple of messages that aren't just related to you getting your track signed, and then hopefully that will help you get your foot in the door with their label. So tip number two is remix sort of a very special or well-known track from an artist that is well-known. Now, what I would suggest is not just remixing a track that's been done a million times, like picking a classic, you go on YouTube and there's already 1,000 remixes of it already. Try to find something that, was a special track, maybe a little bit underrated or whatever like that, and sort of do a remix, rework, bootleg, whatever you want to call it. And that way it's going to help your name get sort of noticed, because it's going to come up in their emails. They're going to see the track that they quite possibly remembered. And then DJs love that sort of stuff when it comes to, putting these sort of tracks in their sets. Now, what I would say, obviously tread carefully and do sort of seek for permission to do this, but that is definitely going to help get your name noticed, especially if you do a good job of remixing an older sort of track like that hasn't been done 1,000 times. DJs will start to play it in their sets, they'll start to see your name next to it, and this is a definite big one for sort of getting your name out there. And in return, what I would then do is then follow that up with a big original track. That way you're going to help yourself get your foot in the door again in terms of DJs and labels seeing your name and then wanting to open your email, because that is probably one of the biggest, most hardest things to do anyway, is to actually get the emails opened in the first place. So yeah, that's tip number two. Tip number three is don't send poorly made tracks to labels. Now, the reason for that is you don't want to be sending bad tracks that aren't even up to scratch yet. You're only going to start burning your bridges, and what's going to happen is they're going to keep opening your tracks. Let's say you get to that stage where they've actually opened them, they're listening, and they're just like, oh, this isn't up to scratch for this label. Now, not to say your tracks aren't going to improve, they will do, and you can keep sending them, but what I would suggest is don't keep sending them too early or too premature where they're not ready for that label or they're not at that level yet, because all they're going to do is label's going to see your name pop up and think to themselves, every time I've opened a track from them, it wasn't up to scratch, so I'm not even going to bother opening up again. What you got to remember, these people are busy, so do not burn your bridges earlier on by sending them tracks that aren't up to scratch for that label. Get as much feedback as you can from people in terms of, professionalism. Do these tracks sound professional? And be totally honest with yourself before you send that track. Listen to the other tracks on that label and sort of say to yourself, is this on par, above, or at least on level with the other tracks? If not, continue to keep making the track better and better. Tip number four is about the title of the email. Now, if a DJ opens their emails, for example, and sees in the subject capital letters promo, they're either going to go to themselves, I'll go through that later on when I'm going through my promos, or, they'll dismiss it totally because they're like, oh, another promo. You want to try and make your emails personable, as I said to you before about building rapport. Now, if you go through your emails and look to all the ones that you've not read, ask yourself, is there any trends as to why I'm not opening them? Do they look very salesy? So what you want to do is try and create subject lines for your promos that come across as if it's more like a personal email from like a friend or a family member. So yeah, have a think about that, test and see what sort of works for yourself. But yeah, in terms of actually getting the emails opened, you also have to think at that stage as well. There's obviously many different stages in terms of getting your tracks listened to, and you don't want to fall short at these different areas. So having the email opened is important, obviously, for that for them to actually listen. But that is mainly in the title of the email. If you've got something that's dead salesy, they just won't open it. Tip number 5, it's the information that's in your email. Now, this is obviously going to change from label that you've never spoken to before and not been able to build any rapport, as opposed to the DJ artist that you have built a bit of rapport with. Obviously, if you build a bit of rapport with them before, it can be a much more friendly sort of family friend sort of conversation with them about the track that you're sending. Obviously, with a label, what I would say is don't ramble on. You know, they don't care what track got you into the music that you're making or what you had for dinner. Like, they're there to obviously sign tracks and listen to tracks. They've got so many to get through. So don't be writing big paragraphs about your life story. However harsh that might sound, you have to be real with yourself and say, is this part of the email important to them? And if it's not, then, you know, keep it short and sweet. Have a bit of information about why you're sending it to that label. What I would also suggest is having two links to your track. Now, the reason for this is I'll have a link, which is a quick listen link, and that's generally a SoundCloud link, and then I'll have a full WAV format link for them to download if they like the first quick preview link. Now, obviously, you can have the SoundCloud link downloadable, but if just in case that's missed, I always have another link to the full WAV download so that they can go in, listen. What you got to remember, that they will only probably skip through your track. You've got to like a couple of seconds to obviously impress them. And obviously having the SoundCloud link there is much easier for them to do that than having to download, you know, add loads of space to their computer and stuff like that they're downloading it to. No one wants 2,000 WAV files on their computer. So it's easier for them to have a quick SoundCloud link to listen to. Do they like the track? Yeah, okay, I'll download the full version and we'll go from there. So yeah, that is definitely what I would do in terms of obviously the information. Short and sweet, and you've got to think about what can I do to help them as well when it comes to obviously downloading the track. Tip number 6 is don't send unfinished or unmastered tracks, especially to labels. Now, if you haven't been able to speak to them before, then I would suggest, obviously, you know, having it mastered, having it finished. They are listening to tracks day in, day out, the A&R of different tracks that are finished and are mastered. And you don't want your track falling short next to theirs, because it's just going to instantly decrease your chances of getting it signed. Now, when it comes to sending it to someone that you know and you've built a bit of rapport with, yes, you might be able to then send them a track that's sort of 90% finished. About, look, you know, I've signed with you before. What sort of changes would you like here? Is this something that you would look to sign in if I complete it or whatever? But again, I would still always suggest getting it as complete as you possibly can. I know it can be a bit expensive getting it mastered, but that master and that sheen on it is always going to help your chances of getting it signed. Now, they might come back to you with some changes that you need to do on the track, which is obviously up to yourself if you want to do that to your track. And that can obviously get expensive with mastering. Now, this is why I think it's a good idea to sort of learn and understand mastering yourself, so that you can get to a level of you can master the track yourself. This is what I used to do. I'd master the track to a level myself, and then I'd let them know in the email, look, I've mastered this myself, or brought the levels up with a limiter just to sort of boost those levels for them to be able to hear it properly. I've done that in case you want any sort of minor changes or anything like that. And once that's done, I can then obviously fire it off to get a professional master. So yeah, that is definitely something that I would look into. Again, this is not something that is the exact thing to do, but this is something that I would suggest doing, obviously, when sending tracks to labels. Tip number 7 is asking yourself, does this track suit the label? Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to listen to the label and sort of see what sort of things they're signing. You cannot be sending them tracks that sound nowhere near what they're signing. It's not even in the same subgenre or even the same genre for that matter. You know, you have to be asking yourself, is this right for the label? Would this suit? You know, go through their catalogue and see what they've signed before, or else you're just going to be wasting your time and their time by sending tracks that have no place on their label. Tip number 8 is be patient. Sending labels to tracks and then pestering them the day after asking if they've listened to it is not going to work. They have heaps of tracks sent to them all the time, and obviously a lot will get missed. And obviously use some of the tips that I've said earlier on to sort of help that happen and not get missed, you know, and for them to actually listen to your track and play it. But yeah, be patient. Send it to only one label at a time. There's nothing worse than sending your track to 2 labels and then them both wanting to sign it and then you having to let one of them down or turn one of them away, you know. That is not going to help with the whole building rapport and sort of building a relationship with that label. So what I would suggest is send one label at a time. If you don't hear anything back in 2 weeks, maybe follow up another email. If you've then not heard anything back in another week or 2, then possibly go to send it somewhere else. But yeah, I wouldn't just machine gun them to every single person and every single label that you know, because you're only going to get a backlash if many of them want to sign the track. So hopefully some of these tips and tricks, guys, are going to help you get your tracks listened to. I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, that it's the only way or guaranteed way to do things, but they should definitely help you much more than just sending a salesy email to either a DJ or a label. For any one of you that also have any tips and tricks on how you get your tracks listened to, please feel free to comment below. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, if you'd like tips and tricks like this sent to you, please also subscribe to the newsletter at allanmorrowstudios.com for many more tips and tricks like this. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you again soon.